Hello everyone and welcome to TCS's Introduction to Manual Notching. Some of you may be asking, what is manual notching? Manual notching is a WOW Diesel decoder exclusive feature which has been included in every WOW Diesel decoder since version 1 all the way back in 2015. Manual notching allows a user to select the active notch of a locomotive. Manual notching allows you to independently adjust the prime mover or notch sound and separately control the speed of the locomotive. TCS manual notching works very simply without the need for any end-user setup. By default, buttons 10 and 11 allow the user to increase or decrease the active notch of the locomotive respectively, with button 10 being notch up and button 11 being notch down. Manual notching can be used at any time in any throttle mode. But if you would like to disable all automatic notching, either in prototype or traditional mode, you can use Audio Assist to select the manual notch throttle mode. Using the throttle, you set the desired speed of the locomotive, and by using the manual notch up button, 10, and the manual notch down button, 11, you can change the notch sound to your desired notch. That's it. It's that simple. The notch sound you manually select locks in and overrides the throttle's automatically selected notch setting as determined by the throttle mode. Manual notching is implemented in a compounding way. For example, if you are at notch 1 and you press the notch up button in rapid succession 3 times, the notch will transition from notch 1 to notch 4 in one transition. In other words, the decoder does not stair-step through each notch. The notch will change as many steps as the number of times the button is pressed. If you would like to hear each notch transition, then press the notch buttons once at a time. By default, you will hear an audible feedback to confirm that you have changed notches. This sound is the sound of a power control relay from an early generation diesel locomotive. If you would prefer not to hear this feedback, it can be disabled via CV programming. TCS's WOW Diesel guided programming tool on our website can be used to easily reconfigure the user options, including this setting. We'll give you a demonstration of that over there. So you may be thinking to yourself, buttons 10 and 11, those aren't accessible on my throttle very easily. Well, if I have to use manual notching a lot, what should I do? If manual notching is something that you use often, TCS recommends that you remap the manual notch buttons. Possible choices would be button 3, which is the short horn, and button 4, which is the horn quill. But you may use any buttons on your throttle. All buttons may be remapped on a TCS WOWSound decoder. For example, you may displace the short horn and the quill, buttons 3 and 4, but you may remap them to the default buttons for manual notching of 10 and 11. So now you might be asking yourself, well, why should I use manual notching? If the automatic mode or the traditional mode are right for me, well, why would I consider manual notching? If you're a user who likes to take the wheel and really feel like you're in control of the locomotive like a real engineer, this feature is perfect for you. Just like the real engineer, you can change the notch to prepare for a grade or change the notch when you're coming into the yard. With manual notching always available at a single button press, you can run the locomotive your way. Manual notching is great for consistent locomotives also, which are generally run in traditional throttle mode. With manual notching, you can ramp up the locomotives for a grade without changing the speed. Another use of manual notching would be to simulate a load test while you're in your yard by ramping the prime mover to notch 8 and then dumping the power into the dynamic brakes. You may be asking yourself, what if I don't want to use manual notching? That's fine. Though manual notching is an always-on and available feature, manual notching is only activated by the manual notch buttons. Regardless of your selected throttle mode, be it prototype or traditional, you can use manual notching at will. And if you want to return to your selected throttle mode, the only thing you have to do is just touch your throttle. Any increase or decrease in speed will return the locomotive to the selected throttle mode, even with just one speed step. So here we are at tcstcc.com. We're going to go over here to the WOWSound option, and then down to Tools and Information. Here you can see we have a guided programmer for both steam and diesel, but in this case we're going to be going to diesel. So we'll click that, and this is the guided programmer. The first and most important thing about the guided programmer is you need to select the right version for your decoder. So in this case the version in the locomotive is a version 4, but as you can see here you have options for versions 1, 2, 3, and 4. There are some small differences, though not everything changes every time. So we're going to go to version 4, and we're going to go to, so here we're going to click on Options and Throttle Mode. and then go to User Options. Okay, so in order to disable the manual notching feedback, that's the first option over here on the left. So these are all the defaults that are loaded into the decoder. If you've made changes or would like to change other things while you're here, you can click other checkboxes. But for our example, we're just going to turn this one off. You see here your automatically generated CV values that you need to program. So into CV201, you need to program a value of 4. Into CV202, a value of 19. CV203, 18. And CV204, a value of 186. And with those CV values programmed, your manual notching feedback will be disabled. And now we'll go ahead and transition over to our test layout so we can give you a live demonstration of all the features of manual notching. Welcome back, everyone. Here we are at our test layout, and we have this Atlas GP40-2 Phase 2 locomotive that we're going to be using as a demonstration of manual notching. So let's start up the prime mover and get going. Alright, there we have it. We're all started up, so let's get moving. Now, as I mentioned, this is in prototype mode, so the notch is automatically determined by that throttle mode. I'm not pushing any buttons here, folks. No black magic going on here. It's all the decoder. So you can see here, it hits the grade and notches up appropriately. And now we're cresting the hill and coming back down. So now let's use our imagination here and say that this locomotive's hauling a train. Obviously there's no train attached, but that's why we're using our imagination, right? So, right now, that train's pushing this train down the hill. And the prime mover's notched up too far. So let's go ahead and knock that down a peg. Just like that, we're on manual notching. With a single button press, we brought the notch down. And let's bring it down some more. Alright, simple, right? Just a single button press and I can change the notch. So now let's imagine that this hill's backwards, and now the locomotive is pulling a train up that hill, so we'll have to bring that notch up. Okay, up a notch. Let's go up another one. And another. And another. And now the train's pushing the locomotive down the hill, so we'll bring it back down. So now there, as mentioned previously, the manual notching feature will move the notch as many times as the button is pressed. So right there, the transition was from a high notch to a very low notch in one transition. That's because I pushed the button multiple times. So now let's take this and apply it to manual notching up. So I'll go ahead and push the manual notch up button a few times, and it'll notch up several times in one step. Pretty easy, right? Also, as mentioned previously, you can separately control the speed and the notch of the locomotive. So right now you can see here that we're sitting still, but previously we were moving. So I can take this here throttle, and I can push the manual notch up button, and even though the locomotive isn't moving, it will still notch up. So let's say you're getting ready to pull a big heavy train, and, well, it's going to need a lot of power to get that train going. So we'll use the manual notch button to set the prime mover notch higher before we get going. So now, without pushing any other buttons, we're going to go ahead and increase the throttle to get that train moving. Now you may have noticed there that the prime mover notched back down. That's because I touched the throttle, the prime mover automatically set itself back into automatic prototype mode. As mentioned previously, it will do that. Now if we want to set this so that it only does manual notching, we can do that through audio assist. So let's go ahead and do that now. Alright, so here we are stopped again, and we're going to enter into audio assist and set the throttle mode.
Welcome to audio assist.
And we're going to choose menu option number 4.
To hear, use button 1 to choose a throttle mode.
And that's what we want to do, so we're going to push button 1.
To set up your use buttons 1 and 2 to select the operational mode you want to run the locomotive in.
And right now we're looking for manual notching.
Of the throttle type. Traditional throttle operation.
Okay, that's not right.
Manual notching operation.
There we go, manual notching. So now we're going to push button 8 to save that change.
Saved.
Okay, and then we're going to exit using button 0.
And 2. Bye.
Okay, so now we're in manual notching, exclusively. So now, if I do that same test again, where I turn up the throttle, and now increase the speed, the notch stays the same. So now we're increasing the throttle some more. Let's get over to that hill. Let's give it a good speed. Here, let's go 30. Alright, and now we're going to notch back down. So as you can see, even though I'm not moving the throttle, I can still control the speed of the locomotive and the notch of the locomotive separately. So we'll notch it back up and come to a stop using TCS's braking features. Beautiful. Okay, so now here we are with an Illinois Central locomotive. You may have noticed that it was rather easy for me to change the notch, and that's because I moved my buttons from 10 and 11, which are the defaults, to 3 and 4. This is very easy to do using audio assist. So this locomotive currently has the manual notch buttons set up for buttons 10 and 11, and I'm going to show you how to put them on 3 and 4 using audio assist. So let's enter into audio assist right now. Okay, now we're in audio assist.
Use button 1 to hear the sound programming options.
And we want to program sound, so we're going to use button 1.
Use button 1 to adjust sound volumes.
No, we don't want to do that.
Use button 2 to map a sound to a button.
That's what we want to do, so we're going to use button 2.
Select a prime mover. Use button 9. Use buttons 3 and 4 to select the type of sound you want.
So now we're going to scroll through until we hear the manual notch buttons.
Windshield wiper, stop sound, sanding valve, rotate whistle, reverse sound, prime mover ignition, mute, momentum, manual notch up.
Okay, so there's manual notch up. So now we're going to move that to button 4, and to do that, we're going to press button 2.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay, there we go. So now we press 8 to save.
Saved.
And now we're going to move to the other prime mover button.
4, manual notch down.
Okay, that's the next one, and we're going to put that one on button 3.
3.
Okay, And save.
Saved.
There we go. Now we just moved it over to buttons 3 and 4.
And 5.
Press 0 to exit audio assist. Let's test it out. Okay, so here I'll press button 4. Look at that. Now we're ramping up. And if we want to go back down, we just push button 3. There you have it, folks. That concludes our little demonstration here of manual notching on our beautiful test layout here. And let's get back over there. Thank you for watching this tutorial from TCS on manual notching. If you liked the video, be sure to leave us a like and tell us in the comments down below what you'd like to see next from TCS. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Facebook. Thanks. Happy modeling.